So we got a brand new AWS Security Hub that is now generally available. And this is so cool. This is the ultimate unified security operation tool that you can use. Let's go ahead and get started. Oh, wait a second. All right, before we get started, put on your thinking cap so that you become the ultimate cloud engineer. All right, boys and girls, I am logged right in to my AWS account. And here we are on the Security Hub service. So right here you can see the following. Get started. And I have been on the public preview for the past few months. I've created tutorials on it, and this is so good. This is the true unified security operations dashboard that you can use, and there are lots of incredible updates right here. Okay, so number one, of course, we'll be selecting on to continue with Security Hub general availability. Okay, so of course, there's all these wonderful offers like finding aggregation, exposure correlation, resource inventory, workflow automation, and so on that we will be going through in today's tutorial. The tutorial for today is basic, however, it is extensive, so we'll be going through a lot of interesting things. What is really cool right now is that here we have pricing in the new Security Hub. All right, so the Security Hub essential capabilities, all right, is going to have like the exposure correlation and all those I've just shared with you. It's going to include Security Hub CSPM, which stands for Cloud Security Posture Management. All right, so this is the part where, for example, someone creates a security group, it is too excessively open. Again, Security Hub CSPM will detect that and give feedback to Security Hub. There will also be Gut Duty, which is a threat detection service. All right, so in this situation, we have the EC2 automated malware scanning. So if your EC2 is exhibiting some kind of possible security finding, then what will happen is the EBS volume will then be taken a snapshot of, all right, and it will be scanned to look out for malicious software. So we have done a tutorial on that too. Inspector is going to be our vulnerability management service. So it has numerous features within all these different services. So in this case, if you see Inspector, we have like EC2 scanning, ECR, so looking out for vulnerabilities within them, okay? So, of course, good news, as usual, 30-day free trial. So go ahead, try it out. They have wonderful dashboards you will see in a moment. They have wonderful, all right, trends, the capability of seeing the topology. Then next up, we have threat analytics, all right? So this is the part where you have, all right, additional capabilities to help you detect more. So if you see here, we have Gut Duty Foundational, right? So VPC flow logs, S3 protection, EKS, Lambda, RDS, all this will be part of the threat analytics component. Okay, so again, wonderful. And of course, Gut Duty Cloud Threat Monitoring itself. And finally, if you are using, say, the Lambda code scanning to look out for vulnerabilities, and you will be able to use, all right, Inspector to help you do that. And all of this will be part, all right, of the Security Hub pricing. And let's go ahead and click on the View Estimates. Right here, I'm on the Cost Estimator, and we have a couple of options, right? So the standard pricing is the pricing that you have always been aware of, all right? And there is a simplified pricing. So right here, I can expand on this. Okay, so there is, of course, cost optimization, the simplified pricing. Receive Security Hub essential capabilities included by default for every resource. Pay a flat fee per resource for essential capabilities with predictable scaling as coverage expands with your resources. So we'll get to that in a moment. So if I expand onto the pricing information here, right? Security Hub essential capabilities is priced per resource. So if you're doing more scans on those target resources, there is no effect. Okay, so this is really good. All right, so if you see here we have EC2, so you're doing more scans on EC2, you're doing more scans on specific users. Again, it's priced at per resource rather than the number of times you're scanning. So if you're scanning a lot, then this totally makes sense. Okay, and the bundle pricing in total is just significantly better priced. And of course, you have to try the analytics capabilities, all right, additional capabilities. And if I scroll down further, we have the details. So you have the standard pricing on the left and a simplified new pricing on the right. Okay, so if I scroll down further, you can see right here, the left is the one that we are more familiar with, that's been around for a long time. So say, for example, Inspector Center for Internet, all right, security scanning. So this is, okay, 500 CIS checks, and it's just a tick directly on a simplified pricing, meaning that you can scan much more than if you want to, okay? Likewise for container image scanning, Lambda standard scanning, and so on. All right. So with this, unlimited scans and security checks for all resource types. So this makes total sense if you're going to be scanning more, so you can have more security for your resources. Okay. Likewise, if you go to the left side, you can click on to edit. All right. So you can change the number of security checks, number of findings ingested, automation rules, and so on and so forth. So you can easily play around with this and see which one makes the most sense for you. All right, simplified pricing. Now I can go ahead and scan my resources more frequently, all right, without having to be concerned about, say, the number of scans that's being run, because right now, the new simplified pricing is on per resource, okay? And as you scroll down further, you have the threat analytics part, okay? And threat analytics part, you can see right here, we have the cloud threat management events, and we have all these additional protection plans on a good duty, all right? And if you see right at the end, all right, the simplified pricing is more affordable. So why not? Just go for it. We're saving quite a significant chunk by moving into the bundled pricing. So finally, likewise, even inspector Lambda code scanning, for the same number of Lambda functions that you're scanning per month, it is at a lower price. So it looks like the bundled simplified pricing makes a lot more sense. You can have a greater coverage across all these different services and resources. Now in the area of architecture, of course, you have your data sources on the left. So in this instance, we have, for example, Amazon Macy. So what Macy does for us is that it runs through into your S3 buckets of objects and discover where all your sensitive information, like personally identifiable information, financial information, or even any of this custom data identifiers that you have, and it will stream these security findings over into Security Hub. Next up, of course, we have GuardDuty. So GuardDuty is our threat detection service. So it's able to look out for, say, privilege escalation, malware running inside the EC2, and all of those information. And again, the security findings are then streamed over into Security Hub. Next, you have the Cloud Security Posture Management Service. So this is something that we are all familiar with, which were the prior, all right, Security Hub. So this is where you have security standards like CIS and so on, and you are measuring against specific configurations, and those security findings, particularly for non-compliant resources, are also likewise, those findings are sent and streamed over into Security Hub. You have Inspector, which is our vulnerability management service. So this is where you're looking out for missed patches, you're looking out for vulnerable code inside repositories, inside Lambda functions. So Inspector can pick that up for us and then stream those findings over into Security Hub. And last but not the least, we have AWS Config. So this is a configuration tracking service that can help us look out for resource configurations like your security groups, your EC2, and all of that. And likewise, all this are made available in Security Hub. So then the next question is, what does Security Hub do with all of this data? Is that it analyzes them. It correlates everything that is going on. And this gives you, all right, the ultimate unified security dashboard. And who can use it? All right, so it can be your security analyst. Okay, so in this case, maybe you have your best friend forever, Mr. Hacker Loy, who is going to be accessing over into Security Hub to look up for vulnerabilities in the environment, to look for gaps in the environment. And then after that, be able to remediate all of these different types of security findings. Or it could also be CISO Loy. All right, so CISO Loy will then be an executive who can look at the trends of what things are going on inside our corporate organization environment and be able to say, okay, we now have 10,000 findings and we are going to target to reduce those findings over time. So they have an executive friendly tab that you can use directly inside Security Hub. And the other super interesting thing is in the future, perhaps you can have Agent Loy, which is going to be your agentic AI buddy, who can also look into all these findings and help you work on them. Now, jumping back over in AWS console, without further ado, let's go ahead and click onto enable in 3, 2, 1, click enable. And these are the 4 awesome stuff. Exposure findings calculations now include threat findings with correlation happening in nearly real time. Wow, this is amazing. Dashboard trend widgets for threat findings, exposure findings and resources, unified management of vulnerability, threat analytics and posture management, optimized unified pricing that I just explained to you earlier. Again, all this are wonderful, game-changing. This is the ultimate security dashboard for myself, or particularly for all of these different resources that I've run on AWS too. Okay, you're missing permissions that are required to manage policies in Security Hub. Let me go ahead and do that too. Now right here, I am on my management account and I'm going to configure Security Hub right here. Delegated administrative policy. All right, so just scroll all the way down, read through the policy. Okay, I confirm that I reviewed the policy and understand the permissions it grants. Enable Security Hub for my account, click configure. That's it, done. All right, so super easy to set up and enable. And now we have the latest Security Hub running across all of our accounts. Here we are. We have AWS Security Hub running, and this is the summary page. And we have two options available. One is the executive friendly option. And this is where, let's say you're a CISO Lloyd, and you can scroll down, or a security manager. You can see what's going on, the trends. Number of threats are happening across your AWS organizations, exposure, resources, findings. You can easily select day over day, month over month. So this is super useful when it comes to reporting about the trends you're seeing across your organization. If I scroll down further, likewise, all right, you have threat finding trends, all right, exposure finding trends. You can easily select onto those options over there. Super neat, super beautiful, easy for reporting. The coverage across your accounts. Do I have coverage for my sandbox? Testing accounts, are they secure to not just my production environments? If I'm rolling out a new production application in a new AWS account, do we have security coverage for them, like vulnerability management, threat analytics, sensitive data discovery, posture management? And of course, I can look at all the resources. So if there's a huge spike in the number of resources, I get notified. I understand what's going on across the environment. Now, scrolling back all the way up, once again, we have triage. So this is where you are engineer Lloyd and you want to see what's going on over here. So of course, you can see, for example, in this case, we have the summary of what's going on, the threat summaries, the exposure summaries. We can start drilling down, all right, into each of these different findings. All right, so you can see here, we have findings of like 5 security risks detected. I can click in. I can start diving deeper into each of these findings. We have resource hijacking, unauthorized access, the severity. So this helps us investigate what is going on across the environment. And guess what? Super good news, right? Is if you see what's going on here, if I was to expand onto the following, you can add widgets. All right. So if you click on add widget, all right, you have all these different widgets that you can drag and drop over into the dashboard. Okay. So if you want to see any of this, you want to customize them, you can easily place them over into the dashboard. So you can see over here, I can place them. Trends overview, so super easy. Okay, so you can customize this very quickly, have your own dashboard that you like, and you'll be able to view what is going on across, all right, your AWS environment. And this makes reporting super easy. Next up, we have threats. So threat ingests findings directly from GuardDuty as a threat detection service, and it tells you what is going on across the environment. So over on threats, as I scroll down further, all right, we first have an overview of the number of findings. So maybe increasing findings could be that there could be certain attack campaign targeting your organization, maybe certain misconfigurations you're taking advantage by the threat actors. So as I scroll down further, you can see the following of like security risks identified on an EC2. So I can easily select onto any of this findings. I expand onto them. And I can click onto it, and it gives us the information of the resources in question, the AWS account, the EC2 instance information, all right, the overview of what's going on, any remediation recommendations. Okay, so this gives you a very quick view of what is happening, and this is streaming all of those findings directly from GuardDuty. And now to the most powerful of them all is exposure. Exposure is where it correlates across all these different security sources. So you have, for example, Security Hub CSPM, you have GuardDuty, you have Inspector, you have Macy. So they are providing you a lot of intelligence across the security events in your AWS environment. And what we can do here is that we can look at an overview of all this potential exposure that is running, and this correlation is done automatically for us. So if I scroll down further, you can see right here, right, with the automatic correlation, I can click onto the following: potential resource hijacking. I select onto this EC2 instance. It gives an overview of what's going on. The EC2 instance has administrative access, contains malicious files that are harmful, exposing the instance to resource hijacking. It gives us the overview of what is going on. The contributing traits, like in this situation, the EC2 instance has an administrative access policy. So anyone who has access to the EC2 can use those administrative access policy to access the rest of possibly the AWS environment. And there are malicious files residing in the EC2. Now, this is the coolest of them all. All right, the potential attack path. So if I zoom in on this, you can see right here, the one highlighted, all right, in orange is the primary resource. I can zoom in a little more, okay? And I can see what is going on. So all these are the other associated resources. So this is the subnet is residing in, the VPC, all right, the security group attachment, the volume, and the IAM role. And you can see here, this is the IAM role that has the following contributing traits. The IAM role associated with the EC2 instance has an administrative access policy. So huge no-no, particularly for compute environments. So this allows us to see the associated entities, their profiles, the contributing traits, and what can we do to tighten up security in the environment. Another potential attack path right here, and this has to do with a specific IAM user. I can click on it and look at the contributing traits. So this user doesn't have multi-factor authentication enabled, has unused credentials. So we want to tighten the permission for this user. And of course, if I select onto the group in question, the user has administrative access. And with administrative access, we want to make sure that we have layered controls in place, particularly when it comes to authenticating into the account. So you can apply the right security controls to better protect this user accesses. Next up, we have vulnerabilities. So this is where Amazon Inspector, a vulnerability management service, is streaming all these findings directly for you. So you can see here on vulnerabilities, again, we have trend, which is very important to help us see whether we are regressing or are we improving our security posture. And I scroll down further, you can see all these different CVEs in question, and I can expand onto them and see which resource is in effect. So in this case, we have an EC2 instance, all right? So we also have, for example, like Lambda functions, you have your code repositories. So all these are resources that can be scanned for vulnerabilities by Amazon Inspector. And likewise, there's also the capability to check against the resources against Center for Internet Security Standard. Now, next up, we have posture management. So this is where Security Hub CSPM, which can check against like Center for Internet Security. They can check against for NIST. They can check against like AWS Foundation of Security Best Practices. And again, we're seeing the trends here. Are we compliant to those security standards? So if I scroll down further, you can see here all these other standards, like have I enabled config across my regions, across my AWS accounts? Are my security groups excessively open with high-risk ports? All right, so I can expand onto them, and we can see some of the informational details here. And a critical finding, I can click onto it, I can select and see what is going on. And right here, by seeing what's going on, I can see that, okay, for this specific account, all right, we're filling onto a specific control. Okay, we can dive deep into what is going on across multiple accounts, across multiple regions. Next up, we have sensitive data. So this is the place where we're using Amazon Macie to help us discover, say, for example, security policies on your S3 buckets or any sensitive objects that are residing within your S3 buckets that are done in the data discovery jobs. So right here, you can see the following. If I scroll down further, the S3 object contains financial information, okay? And it will tell us the object itself, so financial data.csv, and the account in question and region. Likewise, in terms of personal information, like PII data, all right, so if I click right in over here, you can see the following information. If I scroll down further, all right, it's on the account ID in the region, and of course, it's residing in this S3 bucket called Mr. Hackaloy is very handsome. And if you want to review across all of those findings in your environment, you can just go ahead onto the inventory tab, which is incredibly useful. You select onto all findings, and right here, you can see all the findings that are streamed from all these security services into Security Hub. And you can see right here, both configuration checks, all right, threats are detected, data discovery. You can see, for example, with gut duty, S3 protection should be enabled. All right, so all these are configuration checks. And Inspector, which is the vulnerability management service. Okay, you can also easily change the grouping. So if you want to know what's going on, I can select, all right, group by, say, for example, in my case, perhaps I want to select onto the product name. All right, I select onto that. And you can see right here, we have all these different products that are being sent over into Security Hub. And I can expand onto them if I want to know, say for example, gut duty as a threat detection service, what are we seeing from this specific service, from this specific product? Or Amazon Macy, all right, I can easily expand onto any of these products by using the group by option too. Now, another incredibly useful feature is the resources tab. So over here, we can see what are all of the resources that are running inside your environment. So if I scroll down further, so if there is an ask like how many EC2 instances do we have, I can expand on the compute and I can select onto say EC2 instance itself and see how many of them are running across all of my AWS accounts. And are there any security findings associated with it? So this makes reporting especially easy. And I can, of course, further filter, or I can close off the filters. Okay, I can easily change the resource types into other types, like say IAM role, subnets, or security groups. I can expand onto them and they'll highlight to us all these different security groups that are available across your accounts and whether they are part of any security findings. Do we have misconfiguration? What are the contributing traits? If it's part of exposure. So all these are directly available here for you to filter from and also to report on. Now moving towards the management side of things with configurations. So if I select onto configurations, this is the place where you're deciding what are my AWS accounts and regions where I want to have these security services enabled. So in this case, I have the security management with an organization policy. And right here, I can click onto edit to dive deeper onto what's going on. So in this situation, I have an organization policy and we can specify specific organizational units and accounts that you want to enable. So in my case, I've enabled Sandbox as well as the audit account. If I scroll down further, this is the region where I want to ensure that it is enabled. So majority of my workloads are in AP Service 1. So I select onto AP Service 1 where I want to enable the specific regions on. Okay, so once you're ready, just click next, enable it, and it will roll down this and enable the Security Hub service into those target accounts and in those regions for you. And if you want to enable any of those security services that we have learned through the architecture, just go under the configuration catalog, scroll down, and if you want to enable, say, gut duty capabilities across your accounts, just go ahead and click on the configure, and then select the organizational units, the AWS accounts, right, and the regions that you want to enable it on. Configure it, and then the policy will roll down into those target accounts and begin enabling the service for you automatically. Next up with automation. So in automation, this is where we can create rules to say, for example, I want to increase the severity if there are findings associated with, say, production environment. So I say prod severity as a name, and I want to update the finding details. All right, so the criteria here, I can specify, say, for example, tags. All right, so we have the resource tags and we have the key, say environment, and the value is production. And I can click apply onto this. And of course, you can easily preview onto the matching findings. And what I will do here is I'll update the finding details. So I'll say severity. I'm going to change the severity into say fatal. All right, so this requires immediate attention as part of our policy to quickly work on all the security findings affecting our production environments. And next up with integration. So perhaps in the organization, you're currently using ServiceNow, Jira, or any of this, and you want, in this situation, Security Hub findings can automatically create incident or problem tickets in ServiceNow ITSM. And you want to enable this integration, just go ahead and click onto add integration. So incredibly seamless, very easy for you to enable to start working with Security Hub and your existing other service providers. Finally, on settings, we have general settings. So over here, this is cross-region aggregation. So likely if you're running an application and you are serving to customers across the region or even across the world, you want all these different workloads and their resource configuration and findings to stream over into the home region. So in this case, we have the home region of AP Service 1 in Singapore, which is where I'm residing in. And you have all these other regions, all right, like Cape Town, Hong Kong, Tokyo, and so on. And they will stream their findings from all these other regions over into the home region. So if you're accessing from the home region, you can see the findings across from all these other regions too. Now, the other important capability is the account coverage. So this is the place where you want to ensure that you have vulnerability management, threat analytics, sensitive data discovery, and posture management being rolled down to your accounts. And in my case, I have production accounts, I have the landing zone accounts, and for some of them, I would enable it because I want to monitor what is going on, especially for accounts that have running workloads. And for other accounts, perhaps I do not need those, then I can easily customize it directly from the account coverage. So if I scroll down further, you can see the vulnerability management, all right, the threat analytics, sensitive data discovery, and posture management. Likewise, you can directly go over into the coverage findings, and you can see right here, all right, we have, for example, is Macy enabled? Is it covered? Is it inspector? All right, are all these different capabilities, protection plans, all right, the different modules that's available, the different features that are running within the security services, have they been enabled across the regions, across the accounts for you, so you can easily review them through here in the delegated administrator console. Now that you have seen this, go ahead, try out the new AWS Security Hub, and let me know how it goes. And if you like videos like this, remember to subscribe to the channel so that we can learn about cloud security together. There's a lot more tutorials that I'll be producing in areas of security, in areas of AI, and we can all learn this together. Take care and I'll see you on the other side.